seen the original color. The silver is really striking and really cool. So kind of happy to be able to pull off a cool restoration here in the Capitol. Along those lines, the legislative mid-range project has also wrapped up in the Capitol. So legislature did their own project this year. And that...
Madam Chair, MPAN is not currently working and AV is heading up there to fix it, but they've asked you to pause.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know.
Yes.
Is it fixed now? By any chance? The room was externally muted.
I'll check on that.
Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the legislature completed about a $10 million mid-range project here in the Capitol. Among other things, including improving some office space, they renovated the 4 large hearing rooms on the first floor that most of you would be familiar with, and actually added a 5th hearing room down there. And they're all very nice. They're pretty much state-of-the-art. They're beautiful hearing rooms that will serve the public better. And they also enlarged the hearing room up here on the 4th floor. So they've gained a little bit of space and done some nice work in terms of restoration in the building. The last update that I have for you before I turn it over to Gannon Campbell is a change that we made internally to within the division. We've done a little restructuring with existing personnel, and it really aligns with the Capitol Complex Advisory Council and just with our our attitude towards being stewards of state property. So we took our a real estate shop, we took our project management shop, and we took our space manager's shop or space planner shop, and we combined them all into one, what we call the Space Management Services Program. And that is now going to help us to take a more holistic approach to managing the 1.4 million square feet of space that the state owns, that we manage, that you all have jurisdiction over, and the 1.6 million square feet of space that we lease. And this is going to allow us to synchronize our geospatial services, construction planning, lease administration, and enterprise space standards, supporting this hybrid work environment that has come out of the Rose study, and just consistent with real property portfolio management. At the end of the day, what that means for the complex is not only are we trying to get things done on campus that physical changes, but also structurally making sure that we protect the investment that you all and we all as taxpayers have made in our standards and in the way that we do business as a division and as a department. The next updates I'm going to turn over to our new space management program manager, and that is Mr. Gannon Campbell. He'll give you an update on some of the major projects on campus right now.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. We did want to touch on a few of the larger projects we have going on. You probably noticed all the scaffolding here in the Capitol when you walked in. So the dome is getting replaced, or the outside of the dome is getting replaced with, not working. Okay. Outside of the dome is getting replaced, new copper is going on that, and also along with the project, the Senate skylight will be redone or re-put back in. It's been long covered up. And similarly with some of the roof membranes on the center wing and above the east side of the building. In combination with that, we also have some other large-scale capital projects that include the Metcalf building, Walt Sullivan, and the Mitchell. So we have a lot of office space getting refurbed right now. Metcalf should come back online this fall, early winter, and then Walt Sullivan next summer. Mitchell's a little farther out with 2 phases, one phase completing in 2028, and the next phase, or the final phase, completing in 2030.
And that is it. We were happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the committee on the general services update? Okay, moving along then, we will move to Mr. Catherman, A&E Division, for his
Good afternoon.
Capitol Complex Master Plan update.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. Good to be with you again to talk about the Capitol Complex Master Plan. So if in your the slides you can see, if we want to go ahead to the next one, within the statute in Title II, you'll notice that the statute that establishes the Master Plan Act also sets up the responsibilities and the structure of the council as well. So what we've provided for you today in a few slides and in the handouts is the third iteration of the master plan. The very first one that was done for the complex was in 1972. So the state was roughly 90, less than 90 years old, a little over 80 years old before the first master plan of the complex was put together. My predecessor, Mr. O'Connell, had a big hand in that. It's my understanding back in the day. And then in 2010, there was another update provided. Since then, the legislative branch has come up with a requirement for their long-range plan to be integrated into the overall campus complex, and that was finished and adopted this past legislative session, and we're available or in the process right now of incorporating that into the overall complex plan as required by statute. So what we have in front of you today, if you don't mind turning to page 07, so either in the hard copy or anybody online, just want to give you a quick overview of what's included in here. And also in the room with us is our lead architect, Nicole Anderson. She'll help me out with questions. You can go ahead and wave Nicole to the group. So if you've got anything in depth that we can't answer collectively between myself, Gannon, and Steve, we can probably, and Nikki as well, we can certainly ask Nicole to jump in on some of these things. So within the master plan, you'll see section 1 is just an overview of all the components that set it up. So again, page 07. Section 2 covers the existing conditions of the complex. So you have the campus history, some of the facility conditions, the existing map, the current facility inventory, city zoning, just on down through the list of various categories of parking inventory, parking spaces, the traffic studies that have been done, the intersection counts that have been conducted, circulation patterns, all kinds of other helpful information to assist us in planning for the future. And section 3 provides additional updates for the site map of the complex, along with some of the information that was collected within the Rose study about building utilization. Part of that, a bunch of other features regarding access, circulation, and some opportunities for consideration should the campus need to be developed internally to its boundaries in the future. So, Section 4, the implementation plan to the 10 and 20 years, you'll see within your packet way back on page 490 that is still currently in process. There's nothing in your packet right now that we would have for you to consider adopting as a 10 to 20 year proposal. The remainder sections within Section 4, if there is further development of the complex, this sets forth some suggested guidelines to be able to do that. And then lastly, the appendix with some of the assessments and the resources that are available. So with that, Madam Chair, there's only a couple other slides for presentation. Again, the one up on the screen right now within the slide deck is just an overview of some of the policies and the process that is in place for the master plan as referenced to statute. And then within the packet as well, a couple of relevant slides just for public consumption as to some representative pictures and images of what's in the packet. Madam Chair.
Any questions or comments from the council? Senator Bogner.
I do have a question. You mentioned the legislative branch's long-range plan. That's not included in here? Is that what you said? I guess can you talk about that more? You mentioned it, but I missed it.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Senator, the legislative long-range plan is required in the statute to be incorporated into this document, which we have put some of those elements into the packet that you see here, and then it will be included in full in the appendix. So the plan right now, the legislative long-range plan, is on the legislature's website, so it's available for folks there. But we do plan to include it in this packet as well, once this draft is formally completed as well.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, was this master plan online somewhere for this packet?
Madam Chair, this is available, and we've made it available to the committee, but we have not yet posted the draft. No.
And I'm sorry, where would we find this as a committee member?
The master plan is actually available at the CACAC website off of the D of A website. I don't know why we're getting so much reverberation. Do you want to on the mic maybe? Can you, maybe that's it. If you go to doa.mt.gov, then you can go to boards and councils. You can select the CACAC, the Capitol. Sorry. Are we getting so much reverberation?
Now let's try another mic, possibly. I think mine's doing it too, though.
Jump forward.
Madam Chair, there is a link to the download of this master plan draft.
Correct, on the meeting announcement.
Meeting documents.
Let's try. No. JD, can you send someone back up here to check the mics?
Madam Chair, I will do that. Yep.
Thank you.
So what I have pulled up right now, there we go. So what I have pulled up right now is the doa.mt.gov/CCAC. And as you can see under the next meeting, under the materials that we have listed for today, we do have the Capitol Complex Master Plan. That is a link that you can click on. It will have you put your name and email information into it. You can view the document or download it. But it is a very, very large document, so that's the only way that we were able to provide that document online. It is available to the public.
Were there other comments, questions from the council on this? I know we had several folks lit up before we had mic issues. Okay. Before we get into the next couple of items, these first few are not ones we need motions or any action on. I do want to ask Steve to give a little bit of an overview of the process of how you get something either displayed on the Capitol complex or in the building, just for everyone's edification as they hear these next two. So Steve, can you kind of give a brief overview of how that process works, so it kind of pulls everything into focus with this group and the presentations we're going to hear?
Sure, Madam Chair. And I may need to defer to legal counsel too, to make sure that we're all on the same page. But essentially, under MCA 217-804, which is council's duties, that's what covers your ability to approve displays to be on campus. And to get something on campus, whether it is a statue, some form of a formal memorial, so something that you can actually walk up to, or even naming a building, whether it's on the complex or in the building, requires two forms of approval, essentially. It's legislative approval and then council approval. And for those of you that are familiar with budgets, it's kind of like the concept of getting authority and appropriation. And so, and you can start either place. If somebody comes to the council and then they meet the requirements of the statute that I just quoted, which is 217-804, then the council provides a report to SAVA, and then the legislature can take action on it. A group can also go directly to the legislature and have legislation sponsored, and then once the legislature approves it, and then essentially they amend the statutes that make up the Capitol Complex Advisory Master Plan, then it comes back to the council for those final touches. Because there's a list of criteria that the council has to ensure that it meets, and I can read them if you want me to go through them line by line, or at a high level, it's, like it can't use any state funding, and it has to go in an approved space. It doesn't affect the aesthetics of the Capitol, and doesn't affect egress and ingress, all of that. So that's the kind of the fine details. Again, kind of that difference between having legislative authority to spend it and then actually having the cash in your hand. So that's the role of this council, but you can start here or you can finish here.
Great. Hopefully that's helpful. So next up, I want to welcome Senator Weber up to the mic to talk to us about the proposal for the bust of Chief Earl Old Person. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you. Do I have to spell my name?
We're a little bit more informal here in the committee, but you're more than welcome to for the record if you prefer.
Okay, Weber, W-E-B-B-E-R. So I'm here on behalf of Strict. We wanted to, I guess, put the bust of Earl Old Person in the last niche on the rotunda. In front of you, I hope you have, is the letter that was dated July 14th, 2026, in which our chair, Senate Representative Running Wolf, wrote to you regarding our request to have that bust put in the rotunda. We also have the application that we had filled out as per the requirements. And I've got to thank you, Mr. Belamonte, is that we are going through the process that you just outlined, so that we go before you, and then the last part of it is that we have a draft bill, so that Senator or Representative Running Wolf will be carrying it during this next legislative session. The issue here is that Chief Earl Old Person has not been gone over 10 years as the requirement, so we are trying to get that niche. The bust, would you? Okay, we have a handout. The bust is sitting right now in the governor's office. Beautiful piece of artwork. And that we are requesting that you give us our approval to move forward with that. So we're going through all the steps that was outlined just a minute ago. And if you have any questions, I think everything does speak for itself. Chief Earl Old Person was in public service as our chief for 55 years. And all of Indian country across the nation had known him, not only in Montana. He was a good friend of Mike Mansfield. When he passed, there was only 2 Republicans in the room, sorry guys, was the governor and Earl Old Person. But he was a longtime Republican. But the thing is that we would like your approval to fill out that niche. Hopefully, we will not be putting in garbage cans by there when we eat. Move them down the hall somewhere. But we are asking for your approval on this. If you have any questions, I'm open.
Perfect. Thank you, Senator. And y'all do have the letter in your packet and the proposed legislation as well. Ms. Swingley is writing me a long note over here, but I will just let her articulate her comment about the 10-year rule. And it is a little bit different when, to Steve's point, you can come here first or pass a bill, but sometimes it has to come back to us again for approval. And I do think that this is one of those instances after the legislation is formally passed.
So I just want to clarify that that the council at this point cannot give their approval because this instance, as you described, is regarding a bust of an individual who has not been deceased for 10 years yet. And so it is required that you get the legislation first that would provide an exception to the statutory rule for the 10 years. So unfortunately, this is more of an announcement, and then we can't necessarily give, the council can't give approval at this point because of the 10-year issue. But that will be taken care of, as you know, hopefully. And then the legislation will pass, and then it will come back to the council.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. We just wanted to make sure that we were going through all the steps, even though it's backward. But the thing is that legislation will be going through and be carried through with Representative Running Wolf and Montana American Indian Caucus. So, and then State Tribal Relations Committee has already approved it. So I really thank you. Thank you for that information.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Senator, bringing this before the legislation. It's always helpful to us to kind of know what's coming so we can be supportive during session and make sure the legislative bodies know that it meets all of our requirements on our side. So I appreciate that. So
thank you. Just one. How many of you have been in the governor's office and saw the bust? Hey, cool. It's a very beautiful artwork. Thank you.
Ms. Holmes?
Yeah, I just wanted to know who the artist is that created the sculpture, if anyone can tell us.
Is it?
Do we know who the artist was?
Do we have the artist information?
I have no idea, but I mean, I met him. We bought the bust, and we raised money for it, and we paid him. And so, but I can't remember his name. Lyle? I don't know his last name. Okay, so.
We didn't hear. Do you want to say his name? We can't.
You probably could.
Lyle? Sorry. I don't know his last name.
Yeah. It's probably on the bust. You'll have to go down and look at it.
Perfect. Thank you. Senator Bogner?
I do have a question for Senator Weber. In the 2023 session, we approved the bust of Thomas Carter to be displayed in the Capitol. Will this conflict with that?
I have no idea. That's why we're here.
Okay. I don't know if it will or not, but I know we did that in '23. I don't think there was an appropriation for the bust, but it was approved to be displayed. I don't know if it was in the Capitol or the Rotunda, but you may want to look into that.
Okay, I'll bring that up before the strict committee, that there was something, I wasn't aware, or we weren't aware that there was another issue, or that there was someone else that, or prior, jumped our claim.
Okay.
So, anyway, but we'll look into it. I have Dr. Pallister here that will, our staffer.
Yeah, Senator Wagner and Senator Weidner, so we'll do some research there, but typically this body is the one that actually approves the location. The legislature can't just select that. That's the kind of purpose of this, to make sure there is no trip-tromping on each other's toes. It's kind of very deliberate, but we'll do some follow-up, but.
We can keep it in the governor's office.
It's beautiful in there too.
Yep.
So we'll do some homework though and get back with both of you. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council?
I'm sorry, thank you. The sculptor was Lyle Schwaber. And I'm sorry, but he's a native Montanan. He does wildlife and figures cast in bronze. So he is a well-known artist here.
Perfect, thank you for that. Seeing no other further questions, we will move on to the next item, which is a proposal for the Liberty Tree Marker. Do we have a Janice Hand with us today? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the council. I appreciate being able to appear in front of you today to make my case. I know I've probably been driving you crazy, but I wanted to make sure I had a chance. I think if you saw my proposal, what we are proposing to do, and this is Daughters of the American Revolution and Sons of the American Revolution, we have installed a bur oak in the front of the Capitol on the west side as a Montana Liberty tree. It's the first Liberty tree in Montana that we can tell. Now, Liberty trees have a very strong historical connection in that back in the Revolutionary days, every community had one. Typically it was an oak, or an elm, and it was an elm, I should say, and it was the tree that the patriots would gather beneath to plan and to figure out how they were going to deal with the English. And so the symbol then of the Liberty tree is one of patriotism, and that's why we melded that with America 250, which of course comes once in a lifetime, and that's this year. So what we're proposing to do, I think, fits all of your typical requirements. If you'll forgive, there was no artist involved in my sketch. What this is to be is a bronze or aluminum marker, and we have a couple sizes to choose from, that would be installed in the front of the tree that would state that it is a Liberty tree installed from America 250. And who put it in. Ideally, I'd like it ringed by a stone from each of the 13 original colonies. I go back to DC for board meetings a couple times a year, and I could get the other state regents to each bring me a stone. But to do that right, each of them would have to have the name of the state engraved. And so that would be another step that we'd need to go through. From my observation of the markers that are out on the trees now, they're all pretty low, about so far off the ground, and they don't impede in any way. We do not intend this to impede maintenance or anything else that would get in the way. So we've carefully designed it with that in mind. In terms of the material, we can, and I have all kinds of paperwork to fill out for DAR to get this approved on that end. We can either do this in bronze or in aluminum. That would be up to you, whichever you prefer. They both last at the same time, and they're both good in the weather, is what I'm saying. So I'm here to be available if you have any questions, and to ask permission to move this forward so that we can mark clearly the Liberty Tree and America 250 Memorial.
Sorry, I'm having to phone a friend. Thank you for bearing with us. There's very unique rules depending on if it's a bust in the Capitol or if it's on the grounds. So once you articulate the kind of what you're telling me real quickly for her edification so she can know the process formally to help her get this through.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the council. So this one is relatively unique because the tree is already in the ground. And again, the existing markers that we placed do not meet the desires of the Daughters of the American Revolution and its organization. So they're asking for basically approval to create their own marker around the tree. So what they still need to produce for you is an actual final plan. I would suggest maybe, you know, like an architect's rendering or something that the council could then decide on, no different than if you were deciding on the final design of like when we did the Judy March statue. So you need something that you can actually agree to, because if you were to just agree to this, there is no final design. The other thing, I can just go through what in statute this would still need to meet. The biggest thing is I think that you as a group would have to determine that this has artistic merit in design and construction. It recognizes a person or event of statewide significance and relevance. Again, that might just be checking a box, but these are things that you would have to do. The other question would be then, you know, does it have adequate funding for design, installation, and maintenance? And so that could all be in a more fleshed out proposal, but this is, in my opinion, this is more conceptual, and what you're looking for is something that you can actually take action on. The flip side to it is you could completely create that package, take it to the legislature, and then if it becomes statute, then it comes back to the council, and the council still has to run it through that wash of really 8 different criteria that it has to meet. And in this case, there's really only those few that I talked about, which is really a final design and a funding piece is really the main thing here. And assuming that the council agrees that this recognizes a person or event of statewide significance and relevance. That helpful?
And Ms. Hand, is that helpful? I know when we were working, as he mentioned on the statue downstairs, this committee doesn't meet that often, so usually just pinging us when you're ready and you have something, and then there's always updates from usually our various partners. So, you know, just let Steve and his team know whenever you have kind of that formal fleshed out and everything a little bit further, and we're happy to call a meeting so we can get that moving.
Okay.
So, yeah.
A question to you is, when I go ahead and get this flushed out and give you better artwork, do you prefer bronze over aluminum? Do you want me to go one way or the other?
I think it's, you know, your choice with your proposal. I mean, if you want to bring in both for us to look at, I mean, I think just, I mean, if both stand up to the weather, I think would be our biggest concern. So that long as checks that big box, so.
Okay, and is there anything else about the proposal, the way I presented it in this document, that isn't going to fly, so you want me to leave out?
Madam Chair, the only thing that I think I see in here that would need to be fleshed out is there just needs to be some statement about the funding. That it is privately funded.
Yes.
You've covered the bigger part where you're talking about like the no maintenance cost down the road, but it is important. The council cannot approve something if it uses state dollars, so it just needs to be stated clearly.
Yes.
So we have that for the record.
So you know, this is fully funded by Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yeah, if you can just like write that in here in the proposal.
So we have it for the record. Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. So I'll flesh this out, get it a more final, this is exactly what it looks like, and bring it back to you when able.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out when you're ready to present. We usually do kind of cattle call these meetings when we have folks like this that need to come in, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all very much.
Before you run away, let's see if there's any questions from the council of Ms. Hand. And none online? I think we're good. Thank you for coming in, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next up, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I think most folks are aware from the recent conversations over the last couple of years that we've been in conversations internally and obviously also with Governor Gianforte about the state of 2 Carson and, making sure we have a home for not just Governor Gianforte, but all governors in the future. 2 Carson we'll do more of a deep dive on, but it's in a full state of disarray. We have not been able to secure enough funding to support full renovation that is needed. It's just, it's in just really bad condition. I think most folks went and toured it. It kind of speaks for itself, so I really appreciate folks that did take the time. But in the interim, since we've met, the land board, which is our 5 constitutional officers, did meet and approve 720 Madison as the property coming into D of A for possible use as the governor's residence. So we've asked Don to come in today. He worked hand in glove on that whole transaction for us to give a little bit of an overview. Y'all can ask him whatever questions you see fit. Since most of this group is not on land board and didn't get to have those fun conversations. So with Don, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Don Harris. I'm the attorney with GSD, and it was a pleasure to work with the governor's office and the department on the transaction. So the governor and first lady have proposed donating their private residence at 720 Madison here in Helena to the state of Montana for use as the executive residence. The donation was approved by the land board on June 15th, and we're proceeding to an August 18th closing date for that transaction. So we're hoping that on August 18th, that property will become state property, at which time it will be state property within the 10-mile radius of this building, the Capitol, and that would make it subject to the care and maintenance of the Department of Administration. And Administrator Bayamonte may have some more to share with you on what we're thinking in terms of that. But nothing really for you all to do today. Just wanted to kind of outline what has happened and maybe just mention the one thing that you'll have to stay tuned for is that there are 2 statutory duties for the Capitol Complex Advisory Council with respect to the executive residence. One is to advise the Department of Administration on policies for the maintenance and beautification of the executive residence. So when it becomes state property, we will certainly be consulting with you all on that. And the other is to advise the department on long-term art and the executive residence. And so we will absolutely be looking to you for that input as well. And with that, I am happy to entertain any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. One thing I do want to flag, because this is probably the question we get the most about this issue as it relates to 720 Madison in comparison to 2 Carson. In the 2025 legislative session, we used kind of some if then this, then that happens language in House Bill 5. So 720 Madison will have a maintenance budget. Historically, the Capitol building and the executive residence are the only 2 things we are fully exempt from GSD receiving any funds whatsoever to support, any sort of maintenance activities, which is obviously problematic for us when we're managing over 1 million square feet of space. So it'll go on a rate for that per square foot, just like we charge for every other facility. Nothing special about that. It's approved by the legislature. So just want to give that comfort there, because that's the big question is how do we ensure it's move-in ready now, that we ensure it stays in the great condition that it is. So. Questions specifically on 720, Mr. Galt.
I'm just curious, Madam Chair, if you need a motion to accept this? Okay.
We do not. We just wanted to raise this. When you bring in new property into our portfolio, it is under the authority of the land board. Other questions, comments? Okay. Well, moving along, we'll get into, let's see if Jana's able to change the slides. We're having multiple different tech difficulties here, so apologize. Representative Rosenwig and Representative Vinton. Go ahead and change it from the front slide. Okay, so getting into Carson. So this is an area we will have an action item for this group. So as kind of a brief overview, and then we'll get into some of the components here specifically on the agenda. You see here a little bit of history of the executive residence. It has been home to 10 governors. It sits just right over there in a lovely neighborhood just off campus. You see there the architect and out of Billings, Montana. It is just over 12,000 square feet, has a little bit of green space around it, 2-level, it's kind of your standard longer brick ranch house, if you will. You see the number of bedrooms and bath, as well as the kitchen with 2 ovens. It does have a ballroom space, as well as hosting and dining space, 2 fireplaces, and 3-car garage. Moving to the next slide. There we go. So trying to be thoughtful here over the last, few meetings and working with the community here. Obviously, we'll get into the conditions of the facility specifically, but the legislature appropriated some funds towards the renovation of this facility. It has, fallen behind in renovations because think about it, I always say more practically, when you're the governor of the state and you've got competing priorities from education to healthcare, other infrastructure that our state employees and other things use, no matter what your partisan belief, you're going to be less inclined to spend those taxpayer dollars on yourself. And that's laudable. That's fantastic that our governors do that, but also leaves facilities to falling to the wayside and not being taken care of. So we did want to work it through this group in terms of making a decision. You'll see there this next up, we did significant public outreach. We actually did a postcard mailing that we mailed out to all Helena residents, not just folks kind of right here in the bubble. We did open houses, which was awesome. You see, we had 308 visitors that actually came and saw and toured the facility. We also allowed our friends at the press to come and do a walkthrough as well and cover this. And then Steve and I personally presented at Hometown Helena, got on their agenda and talked to the community about it. And then we did an open survey. And you see there, we only got about 258 responses. We kept the survey intentionally kind of high level. We don't want to gobbledygook it up with a lot of government jargon, this, that, and the other. Just trying to see if folks were familiar with the residents at all, and if they could, look at what that future use would be, what would make sense. And you see there our options were demolishing the structure and converting it into green space, remodeling, or selling the property. We'll flag, when you think about this and these options we gave, our utilities are underneath that facility. So we just threw that out there because you think about it as a house, it makes sense to give folks the option to say, yes, sell the house. But that is not the state's prerogative, given, there is significant underneath that earth. And it does have restrictions on it in terms of use. It cannot be used into a full-blown commercial space. So it's pretty much kind of state space or a house. It's pretty restrictive. So when you think about these questions, we kept them narrow because there's just not a lot of options we can really give when you think about our public. So, and then obviously we left an open-ended for folks that wanted to just say anything else they had to add. Kind of going in the details there, you see the feedback that we did receive. Had a lot of folks that were very familiar with the executive residence. And majority folks do want to remodel it for non-residential state use. I will flag, for the sake of simplicity, we did not bog this postcard and survey down with history of the legislature, funding, what's going out to bid, what is not. We really just kind of wanted to see from an honest lens what folks thought without kind of that back and forth and bogging, the postcard's only so big. And then obviously demolishing and creating green space was next, and then selling the property coming in. Current conditions, for those that have toured it, you're very familiar with this. This is the short list. Obviously, you see there the deferred maintenance items that are extensive that we've have to deal with if we did anything with the facility. That doesn't matter if it's a governor's residence, if it is a state agency. We have to do asbestos abatement. There's significant roof damage. There's a lot of external repairs that need to be done. Complete demo and replacement of all the mechanical, HVAC, and plumbing. If you are familiar, we mentioned this last time, but when Governor Bullock lived in the home with his family, only one bathroom and shower worked at a time. So when we say these are significant problems in the home, these are significant problems in the home. That makes it not very the best place to live if you have a full family. You see there it also needs a complete demo and replacement of all the electrical, all the bathrooms and kitchens, all that needs upgrades. There are some very lovely pink bathroom tile. One's yellow, I believe. I think there's another one that's green, blue. I think we have all the colors of those older tile bathrooms. And then you also see the interior finishes as well. The carpet is more than 20 years old. A lot of the bathroom fixtures would absolutely have to be replaced. We've got only one oven that's fully functioning. The stovetop is cracked. Cabinets, both in the kitchen and downstairs, closets, things are coming off. The refrigerator doesn't work. I mean, list goes on and on and on. So this is definitely a heavy lift to get this place up and fully running. Like I said, not even for just a governor, but any sort of use, even as a state function. You'll see next up, the slide, estimated cost. We were appropriated to, Mr. Kazim, how much?
Yeah, Madam Chair, we were appropriated $2.4 million. There's roughly 2.1 of that remaining.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. So you see there the total cost to get this place in, working condition is just over 4.6 million. We were appropriated 2.4. Russ Catherman, the A&E team, did yeoman's work to try to get this thing into budget. We went out to bid. All bids came well over the money we had in the bank. We rescoped, scaled back, things that we still think are must-dos. We made them nice-to-dos, put it out for bid, and it still came in over budget. So at the decision at that time was made to put this project on hold to determine, whether we could secure further funding with the legislature or should we just consider a completely different option entirely, alas, 720 Madison. So the cost you see here and what we're proposing to discuss and have a robust conversation with the council today is, after, much thought and consideration and really, crunching the numbers, looking at what it would take to go back out to bid and get this place fully renovated. Do know those numbers are old, that 4.6. The construction market's still pretty hot, so if we put it out to bid, that could be even more today. We are proposing to demolish the building entirely. We would love to retain the space. If you've been over there, it's in a beautiful neighborhood. That way we don't interfere with that neighborhood. Folks can use it with their kids, dogs, things like that, but the state still retains the land and protects, most importantly, those utilities underneath. You do see there a mock-up of what we have proposed possibly look like on that corner. And then our projected cost to do this would be just over 1 million to fully, take it out and make it just a green space expansion. You heard Russ mention the money, 2-point-some-odd million remains of that original 2.3. We did expend some funds getting those bids out and trying to do some pre-work, planning on the renovation. And you see there the bids I mentioned before that they came over budget. Again, these are more stale numbers I would gander, given working with Russ the last 5.5 years, that those numbers are probably much higher now. So, but you see there just what we have. Kind of moving in a little bit further on the green space conversation, a little bit duplicative, but this does create a nice extension to the Capitol area park. I will say, for the record, one of the things that I noticed right out the gate when I drove into Montana for my very first interview with the governor and the governor's team was the just absolute awe of the Capitol and the Capitol lawn. We are so very lucky that we have a true park-like setting that is absolutely gorgeous that our community can use, and this just kind of extends that beauty further, allowing, again, that neighborhood to take advantage of just having this available. Again, it protects those utilities underneath in that structure for us. It retains the ownership of the land, which helps us as well. And then you see there, since it's built as a residence, we've racked our brain about state agency use. It's pretty clunky for us to come in and try to renovate it for an agency to really use it. Given the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, it's not as easy of a flip as you would think. We did really, take that to heart, hearing that feedback, but I think it'll be probably more pricey than what we're seeing as a residence, because you're talking about a full conversion type in terms of use space. with that. And we also don't really have an agency that we know that needs that space specifically right now, especially with Rose and all the work we've done, relocating agencies and the renovations to the major buildings. There's not a big blinking light agency that would need to move into that facility. You see there again, kind of where it is, looks like right now in the corner with the structure. And then the next slide again, a little bit more depiction. Steve and his team did a great job kind of doing this mock-up. You see what it would look like, as that park setting for that neighborhood. So with that, I'm sure there's questions on this one. So I will pause and stand for questions. Senator Bogner?
Maybe not a question, but perspective from the legislative branch.
Yep.
And maybe some new things came to light yesterday. Mr. Biamonte mentioned that the mid-range plan projects are now completed for the Capitol building, and there is money left over for that. But I want to give a perspective from someone who sat on the Capitol Building Long-Range Plan, Mid-Range Plan, and now Chair Legislative Council. And I would say the ultimate goal with our long-range plan of projects left is to free up more space on the wings for space that is more accessible to the public. For that to happen, Legislative Services, Fiscal, Secretary of State would have to do some moving. Will that happen in the long-range plan? I don't know, but that was the intent. And then we passed Senate Joint Resolution 6 during the legislature that stated we didn't want to do any new builds for legislative space, but use existing space. And then yesterday, with Legislative Council meeting, we learned that we have some money left over for projects if we wanted to. Now, I don't know, I mean, this all happened relatively quick, if it's an option for the legislature to renovate that building for space, to create more space in the Capitol for the public. I'm not sure. But I just wanted to update you on what the legislature's long-range plan is and something that just came to light in terms of funding.
That is helpful perspective. Do you have any reaction to that in the immediate, on the spot? No?
No.
Construction, Jeannie?
No, Madam Chair, I think if there's interest from the committee, we would propose looking at the quantity of space that is available. The difficulty with the residents converting it to a commercial use or institutional use is you're going to lose, because of building code and the other requirements, you're probably going to lose about 30 to 35% usable space. The rest of it becomes common space, in other words, restrooms, probably an elevator. So out of the 12,000 gross, if the residents were part of that consideration, I don't know that you'd really gain that much space, but again, not knowing what the legislature has in mind, it would be hard to say.
Okay. Representative Vinton, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be a question for Mr. Catherman, but you had mentioned a few times, Madam Chair, the utilities and infrastructure underneath it. Are those just serving the other buildings on the campus, or is it a hub for these? So if the building was demoed and another building in the future needed to be built there, would we have to address those utilities at that point?
That's a, you want to take
Chair,
that?
Representative Vinton, I think Mr. Biamonte or Mr. Campbell might be better suited. I believe they serve just the residents, but these guys might have a little better information.
I'm going to kick that over to Mr. Campbell.
Madam Chair, Representative Vinton, the data that runs through there serves as a main raceway from the campus back to the state's data center. So there's a large quantity of fiber that runs through there, as well as tying the executive residence into that as well.
So follow up, Madam Chair.
Representative?
Okay, so just to be clear, should a building be built there in the future, those utilities would have to be moved? Is that a correct assumption?
I would say not necessarily, because we would retain the space, so any building that would be built on top of it would be a state space, be it one of the 3 branches. So that's just our larger concern, is if we sold that property or allowed, a business to come in, that then they're sitting on top of our utilities and our main line to that data center. So we prefer to keep it, the property itself, the earth, if you will. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. An additional question, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Representative.
So, of the 2 million plus left in the budget that was appropriated, could that money be used for the demo should the council decide to go that direction?
Representative, I'm going to let Mr. Kathman elaborate here, but the short answer is no. So you're very familiar with House Bill 5 with your service on Section F. It has very specific language that those funds have to go to a renovation of 2 Carson. So we're still working through what that funding piece would look like for that $1 million to do the full demo. Russ, is there anything that I missed on that?
No, Madam Chair, that's spot on.
Yeah, we did check the language though, but it is very clear renovation, not demolition.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Rosenwig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess first is a question. I was contacted by a few of the neighbors who live right next to the 2 Carson residents. And the first question they had was, if you know whether the alley will still be used or if the garages will still be used for state maintenance vehicles and equipment, and if they'll still be going up and down that alley behind the property, if anybody knows.
I'm going to phone a friend with Administrator Baiamonte, sir, if you will allow.
Madam Chair, Representative, if the residence is no longer there, then it's still a public alley, and it would obviously be, basically the external boundary of state property. So I can't say that we wouldn't drive down there to service the green space, but if there's no residents there, then there wouldn't be anything else there. It would totally just depend on what the green space looked like at the end of the day.
Gotcha. Thanks. And if I may, Madam Chair, a follow-up
Go ahead.
comment. Yeah, just on behalf of the neighbors, because I will be moving for the demolition and the green space creation when we get to that shortly, but just on behalf of the neighbors, just wanted to acknowledge that part of the reason that in the survey they responded that they would like to keep the building active, even though it seems to be not as easy as we thought. Part of the reason is because over the decades, over the time, many people remember fondly all the time that the governors and the governor's family spent among them and the feeling that they got. I just want to acknowledge that historically it was very much integrated of the governor's family into the Capitol complex and the neighborhood. So that's really what they're, I think, really appreciated in the past, how integrated the family and the fabric of government was intertwined with the fabric of the Capitol complex and the neighboring residences. So I just want to acknowledge that sentiment remains, even though having taken a tour and at your direction, Madam Chair, having seen the entirety of the structure, I can't imagine wanting to repair almost any section of it. So that's all I had to say. Thanks, and let me know when it's time to make the motion.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Molly.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I just would like to make a comment, a reminder, I guess, that because this is a historic residence, that we are required to consult with the State Historic Preservation Office regardless of what direction we take with the residents.
And I really appreciate that comment, Molly, because if this body does so move today to proceed with a demolition, Mr. Baiamonte, Mr. Catherman will have to work with your office, and it will not just be a excavator going over it. They will have to go through and be very careful and make sure what needs to be preserved is preserved for historical value. Appreciate that. Other questions, comments? Representative Vinton, do you have another question?
All right, Madam Chair, I forgot to lower my hand.
You're good. Senator Bogner?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I know we've been wanting to move forward on this, but is today like the day that you need to have a motion and move forward?
We had planned to be quite frank, yes, we had. So I know you just got some new information, but yeah, we were hoping, especially given the gift agreement with 720 and ginning up operations over there, that we could make plans for what's the future of 2 Carson as well.
Okay.
It was our hope.
Yes, and I do apologize. This literally came in the last, few hours, how much was actually left. And the mid-range or the Capitol building planning group is meeting in August to decide what to do with that remaining money. We haven't come up with a date yet, but that was sent out this morning. It's a plan. I know it is last minute, and then there was plans to move forward, but I don't want to give up or lose the opportunity of something that may have been an option for us. But Madam Chair, your decision. But I hope you would consider maybe delaying a month.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I do wish we had known sooner. But I do think, obviously, D of A is well aware of the desire for the legislature to need more space. We've been trying to be good partners there with moving LAD out to give you all a little bit more room to spread out with those hearing rooms. But I do think the concerns that we would have would remain the same because it's going to be very expensive to renovate for office space for the legislature just as much as it would be for an executive branch agency. So I just say keep that in mind because we did look at those options, and it's not as easy as you think to flip the house. And to Russ's point, while it is huge, we will lose a lot of that space. It's not quite as big as you think once he really gets in there and has to make it commercial per se. So just other comments. I would like to take public comment on this as well before we do anything as well. I know folks have a lot of interest in this, and then we can have some further conversation if we need. So any public comment in the room, and then we'll go online.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. My name is Nikki Simon. Last name is spelled S-I-M-O-N for the record. Many of you know me as Deputy Division Administrator and Chief of Operations at General Services Division, but today I'm here as a citizen and a direct neighbor of 2 Carson Street. I am representing myself. I'm here on my own time. My personal statements today are my own, and they are not representative of the department's opinion or position. Additionally, at the conclusion of my statement, I have some other statements from neighbors to read into the record on their behalf. I am here today to voice my strong support for the proposal to demolish the existing structure and restore this parcel of land into public green space. Growing up, my dad taught me the value of traditions and shared space in spite of generational changes that it sometimes endures. And he taught me about the duty of involving oneself in the governmental process when something feels important. And as a direct neighbor to this house, this one feels pretty important to me. And though my dad has since passed, his living memory is planted in the south lawn of 2 Carson Street. It's a Helena maple. I can see it from my house. When we walk our daughter around the neighborhood or when we go to Lockheed Park and we visit the tree, I contemplate the memories we're making in the culmination of these little moments. And in this, I am confident in raising her here. The sidewalks are well cared for and kept clean in the winter. The landscaping and flowers are gorgeous. It makes campus a part of our home. Logistically, I believe demoing the house and restoring the green space is the most practical choice for our neighborhood. This property is directly adjacent to an existing park and would be a natural, seamless extension of our neighbors' established green space. Right now, our state campus functions as a true neighborhood campus. While it borders residential homes, a soft but distinct boundary remains. Most campus buildings are separated from our private spaces by parking lots, grassy boulevards, or city roads. If the council decided to repurpose 2 Carson Street to rehome a state agency or some government function, it would challenge that soft boundary, and it would represent a direct commercial creep into the active residential block. And as the representative mentioned, this property was originally operated as a family home, not as a commercial state space. with that kind of use, I think it sets an unpredictable precedent for future campus development, signaling that residential neighborhoods are at risk of enduring incremental pressure from increasingly enmeshed state government activities. Daily disruptions and small downstream burdens compound and could fundamentally change the current spirit of our neighborhood. I urge the council to consider their unique position to influence the lasting legacy of our historical Capitol campus, not just the buildings and the state services those buildings support, but the tradition of this campus being a part of the neighborhood. It's my belief that the department's and the council's continued consideration for the neighborhood follows the Montana standard of an open, accessible, and approachable government. On behalf of my household and for the sake of the people that neighbor my home, please continue the tradition of taking us into consideration. Restoring this property to green space serves to benefit our community, alleviates encroachment of commercial pressures on the neighborhood, and builds on the stewardship and open spirit of our great state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Any other public comment in the room before we go online?
Should I read the statements on behalf of neighbors?
How many do you have and what's their length?
There are 2 and they're this short, I can read fast.
There you go.
Okay.
Why don't you do that so we can hear that? That may be helpful for the council to hear, since the neighborhood is the direct impact of the decision.
We're active. Okay. On behalf of the Carpenter household at 1516 Broadway, just 3 quick statements. Of the choices given on the survey, green space will have the least traffic impact. As the owner of the property sharing the alley with 2 Carson, there is concern about increased state traffic in the alley. General Services is currently using 2 Carson for their ground maintenance equipment. We are hoping the 2 Carson land will truly be green space and not contain a structure for state equipment. And number 3, thank you for the excellent attention to the detail for the draft Capitol Complex Master Plan. It will take time to fully digest all aspects of the document. Based on quick review, foreign languages posted for the text and forward on page 03 and placeholder on page 479. We look forward to having a final copy. My compliments to all who have had a hand in developing the document. Very thorough. And then final, on behalf of Katie Loveland at 1507 East Broadway. My name is Katie Loveland. I am the owner of 1507 East Broadway, sorry. As a homeowner on the same block as the old governor's residence for nearly 20 years, I am concerned with maintaining the residential nature of our street. I believe using the lot as green space is in the best interest of the state and our neighborhood. With more state workers working remotely, the state does not need more office space to maintain, and with the state-of-the-art meeting space newly owned at the Heritage Center, the state does not need additional conference space in the area. The green space will blend nicely with the adjacent walking path and Lockheed Park while reducing building and maintenance costs. Please prioritize this option to respect the neighborhood and provide a long-term solution to the property so that the adjacent homeowners have clear assurances of its use in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Simon, before you sneak away, so because you can compete with me on being an auctioneer, I applaud you on that. But it sounds like that some of the concerns are if the space was retained for state use, is moving from that governor's to some sort of office where there's more traffic. Is that kind of the high-level summary concern of retained use of the neighborhood?
Yes, correct. There isn't a lot of parking, as you all are probably aware. So we would foresee the street parking becoming more used, but when that happens, our mailbox are often blocked. The snow plows usually make it difficult to get out of our driveways when they have to plow around cars, all of that stuff. So yes, that is the concern, that if it becomes commercial use, that the traffic and kind of daily pressures would impact the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions from the council? Who wants to go first? Ms. Holmes?
Just a question. If it does become green space, is it possible in the future, under the rules that Mr. Biamonte explained, sorry, that we might be able to build a sculpture park there or put some public art there to make it welcoming?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Senator?
Yeah, based off the last questions, what was the wording for the survey? Was it remodeled for a non-residential state use, the one that was over 50%?
Let's go back. Let me get my glasses as well. remodel the structure to accommodate non-residential state use.
Okay, I don't have that in front of me. What percentage was that?
147,
Out of, okay,
258.
okay, thank you.
So, as we stated for the record, you know, we had planned to press ahead with the option of 2 Carson being demolished today. That also being said, Senator, I respect that you've got new information. So what I'd like to do is turn it genuinely over to a vote with you making a motion to delay, if you're good with that, Senator, and with the counter motion of 2 Carson. That way it's fair shake on everybody, and let folks vote their conscience on what they see fit, since this is new information, but also know we're trying to get things moving ahead as well. So with that, Senator, would you like to make a motion first? Or would you like the other motion first? Okay, you're not going to make a motion this time. Well, do we have a motion as it relates to 2 Carson? Looks like we got a hand raised at least. Representative Rosenwig.
Yes, I hereby move that the Capitol Complex Advisory Council hereby approve and authorize the state of Montana to proceed with the demolition of the former executive residence located at 2 Carson Street, and then the subsequent conversion of that property into dedicated green space.
Thank you. Given we may have a counter motion, Ms. Williams, I'd like to do this as a roll call vote.
Fantastic. Senator Bogner.
Are we not going to do discussion before? Because I would like to make a substitute motion.
Oh, we can, yeah. Okay, yeah, discussion on the motion, sorry.
Okay. I think this is, I toured the building and it needs renovated. I think this is a very good option. I would actually be in favor of this if we just hold off and not, as a member of the legislature, I don't want to take an option off the table that may be work for the legislature, but also the neighborhood with a 54% majority asked or preferred remodel for non-residential state use. And I want to listen to their wants. I mean, I know not everyone is for that, but I just don't want to take that off the table with the new information we got in the last 24 hours. So I'm not saying I'm against this. I just would ask the committee to just wait 1 month before we take action so we don't take an option off the table that may be something we want to move forward with. So I'd like to make a counter motion to delay action on 2 Carson Street until September 2026.
Thank you for that, Senator. And to comment on your motion, if I may, do you have any sense of when there would be a decision point and what that would look like? And the reason why I ask, which is why we are pushing, I probably should have said this earlier for the record, we are expending more than $100,000 a year of taxpayer money with this place sitting empty. So longer it sits just empty, we are burning our taxpayer dollars for, just to keep it up and running. We can't turn the water and the lights and everything off. So I do think that is a concern of ours at D of A as time of the essence. So I don't know if you have any sense of what that would look like to kind of educate this body a little bit more, as considering your counter motion?
I do a little bit, Madam Chair. The subcommittee is working as fast as they can before the next legislative session when decisions need to be made by. And so, I'm sorry, just checking my email now, we have a poll out for when the next meeting would be, and it'd be in the next 3 weeks. So we would have an answer for you within that.
In 3 weeks, okay. So we got two competing motions on the table. I again want to do a voice individual vote, so we have it since they are very, very much competing, and want to make sure to have that consideration of you, Senator, but I'd rather this body vote on it, if you will, if you're comfortable with that, than us just delaying, since we have been putting significant work into this plan for the last few months. So let's take your motion first, if you will, and do the vote.
Senator Bogner.
Yes.
Senator Harvey.
Excused.
Representative Rosenweig,
No.
Representative Vinton,
Yes.
Dave Galt,
No.
Ralph Cooney,
Yes.
Executive Director Chris Holmes,
Yes.
Director Molly Kruckenberg,
Yes.
Director Misty Angels.
No. What's that?
So we have 6-3.
Well, Senator, congratulations. You get a new meeting in 3 weeks.
Thank you. Yeah.
So with that, obviously, there's no purpose in voting on the 2 Carson demolition motion, but I would say, Senator, if you can, push your colleagues to get some fast answers so we can re-cattle call this committee for that consideration and then look at both options again as well.
Madam Chair, we'll work as hard as we can to get you and the committee an answer as soon as possible. So thank you for your support.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right. Last thing, point of business, my partner in crime, Director Blaisdell, is, we're doing a little bit of dividing and conquering this week, but I think most folks know I have officially resigned and stepped down from my post as Director of Administration and COO for the state of Montana. It has been fun, kids, but I do turn into a pumpkin in about 2 weeks. So with that, would like to go ahead and designate Mark Blaisdell, incoming Director and COO, as a designee for the Department of Administration. And also go ahead and vote for him to take my seat as chair, especially since looks like we're going to have another meeting in a few weeks. So I would support a motion for that action if the committee is so inclined. Mr. Galt?
I'll move that motion. I can't repeat it, but it's well said already.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other public comment, I think, in the room? I don't see any online. All right. Well, with that, meeting is adjourned, and we'll keep you posted when the next meeting is. Thank you all.